Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Harsh Sharma, and I am presenting this project alongside Sean Snyder. Our proposal is titled Phishing Susceptibility and Interface Design, and it focuses on exploring whether the layout and structure of an email client interface can influence a user's ability to identify phishing emails. To frame our discussion, let's turn to the core of our research. Our central inquiry for this study is: does the design of an email interface impact a user's ability to detect phishing emails? This question dwells into a critical area because it's not just about whether users can detect malicious emails in general, but specifically if subtle or explicit changes to the interface they interact with daily can measurably improve their defensive actions. This is the key behavioral question we aim to answer. Motivation and purpose. Phishing attacks are one of the most prevalent cybersecurity threats worldwide. Despite ongoing investments in training and awareness programs, people continue to fall victim to cleverly disguised phishing emails. This suggests that current defenses, particularly those relying on constant user vigilance, are not enough. Our project explores a relatively under-researched defense strategy, that is, the design of the interface itself. We propose that the visual layout and structure of the email client, such as how the sender information is displayed, whether banners are used to highlight suspicious content, and even the color schemes used, can passively guide users towards a safer behavior. This approach doesn't depend on the user being alert or trained to spot threats. Instead, we propose that interface level cues can certainly influence decision making. Just like seatbelt reminder nudges you to buckle up, we believe visual cues in email clients could nudge users to pause and think before clicking suspicious link. This is the purpose of our study, to investigate if design can be a silent, supportive layer in phishing defense. Now let's move to the research gap and research question. Although phishing has been studied extensively, most of the work either focuses on improving the detection algorithms or providing cybersecurity training to the users. These methods are valuable, but they largely overlook one of the most immediate tools we have at our disposal, which is the email interface itself. The current research gap lies in this simple but powerful question: does the way an email client displays the content through the interface design affect a user's ability to detect phishing? In other words, could a well-designed interface actually make users safer by default? And our specific research question is: does the design of an email interface, such as including prominent warning banners, color-coded cues, or sender verification icons, significantly impact users' ability to detect and avoid phishing emails compared to a standard or a generic interface? Now let's move on to our research objectives. Building on our core research question, we have defined three clear objectives for our study. First, we want to quantify differences in user behavior across interface types by tracking click-through rates on malicious links. We will compare a baseline interface with more secure variations, such as those featuring warning banners or verified sender indicators, to see if design alone reduces risky behavior. Second, we aim to assess perceived trustworthiness, ease of use, and overall sense of security for each interface. This subjective feedback will be collected via post-experiment surveys. Finally, we plan to identify which individual UI elements, like red banners, icons, or font colors, correlate most strongly with accurate phishing detection and higher confidence. These insights can inform future design recommendations for safer user experiences. Sean will continue from here on.
In order to perform this research, 100 participants would be recruited. Certain restrictions have been placed on these individuals in order to make sure they are viable for our research. Specifically, we are looking for people who have an occupation that many would generally consider a typical office job, those that have held this position or similar for at least 5 years, and those that consider themselves to be rather computer savvy and have some awareness of social engineering and phishing attacks. We suspect this will likely result in a pool that largely encapsulates a group of people who'd be in their mid-20s and into their 40s. One such purpose for these restrictions is that these people encapsulate those who are most likely to be targeted and susceptible to phishing attacks. For example, the Office for National Statistics for England and Wales performed a telephone-operated crime survey a few years back. Here, they were able to determine from the data they gathered that adults between the ages of 25 and 44 had a higher likelihood of receiving phishing messages than other age groups. Additionally, those who were employed were also at a higher risk than those who were not. Now, after selecting these participants, we would then split them into two groups, Group A, Group B, where Group A will act as the control group and receive an email containing a legitimate link, while Group B would be our test group and receive an email containing a malicious phishing link. These emails will vary in quality, specifically with regards to the design of the email's interface. With this in mind, we will implement a scoring system in order to track the emails that we deem to have a higher quality interface and appear to be more legitimate. And this system will be implemented for both the legitimate and phishing emails, as it can be just as likely for a legitimate email to have a poor design. Now, after receiving their email, the participants will be provided with a survey to fill out where they will need to make the binary decision of whether they believe the email to be malicious and a phishing attack or an attempted phishing attack, or if they believe it to be a legitimate email. Additionally, they will be required to include some additional reasoning as to why they are leaning one way or another. Finally, we will analyze the data collected from our survey and track the number of true positives and negatives and true negatives and positives that would be gathered. This will be used to determine the sensitivity and specificity of the data we collected in order to better understand the impact of the email's design and gather answers for our research objectives. Now, taking this approach, we see that there's at least one risk that we need to be aware of, and that is that we may inadvertently cause the participants to be much more wary when examining their emails. They're going to be on edge, more on guard, and more suspicious of a potential incoming phishing attack, and similarly concerned with potentially failing their task if they were to provide a false negative or a false positive. However, as the data we are looking to gather is primarily determining what correlation, if any, in email's interface impacts someone's ability to detect a phishing attack, we believe that this risk is largely impertinent to our research. Now, here we are able to see the different references that we use throughout our slide deck and our presentation. And that's about it. Thank you all for your time. We look forward to your discussion and comments and feedback down below.